Hey everyone, welcome back to Windows Seat Studies. I hope you all are doing well. So we were learning about cancer. So we have already learned about two hallmarks of cancer. So in last class we learned about apoptosis so that we'll be able to understand how the apoptosis, the mechanism which is very important for maintaining cellular homeostasis, and then it is the mechanism which ensures that we can prevent oncogenesis, how the cancer cells they evade the apoptosis so that they can resist the cell death and continue their uncontrollable proliferation. So in today's class we are going to learn about the few mechanisms that are followed by tumor cells so that they can evade the apoptosis. In last class we learned about the apoptotic pathways in detail. So if you don't know about apoptosis, you can refer to that lecture. So resisting cell death, this is an important hallmark of cancer cells. So there are a few mechanisms by which they can evade the apoptosis. The very widespread mechanism and the very important one is that the tumor cell they disrupt the balance of BCL2 family proteins. So there are two types of BCL2 proteins. So this family has two types of proteins. One are known as pro-apoptotic proteins, and others are anti-apoptotic proteins. The pro-apoptotic proteins are the ones which are going to promote the release of the cytochrome C and thereby promote the apoptosis. While the anti-apoptotic proteins, they decrease the mitochondrial permeability and stabilizes the mitochondria. So this ensures that the anti-apoptotic protein will inhibit the apoptosis. So the anti means something which is opposite to something, right? So anti-apoptotic means the proteins which are going to inhibit apoptosis. So they anti-apoptotic proteins, they ensures mitochondrial stability and increase resistance to apoptosis. So what happens is that in the tumor cells, or when a normal cell starts exhibiting the overexpression of anti-apoptotic proteins, or the underexpression of pro-apoptotic proteins, the normal cell will now get converted into the tumor cell. So this is how the cancer is initiated and it is progressed when the balance of BCL2 family proteins is disrupted. Okay. The other mechanism to evade the apoptosis is that you can increase the expression of some inhibitors, the inhibitory apoptotic proteins, which are known as IAPs. So increasing the expression of IAPs. There are the IAP family proteins are XIAP, then CIAP2, then survivin. These all of them, they are the inhibitor of apoptosis. So they actually, those proteins, they bind to caspase, and once they bind to caspase, now caspase is unable to inhibit protease activity. So now caspase cannot break down the structural and regulatory proteins, and thus there will be no apoptosis. So increasing the production of such inhibitors, it also ensures increasing production of IP, means overexpressing IP. This ensures tumor progression. The third mechanism is that, so this BCL2 family protein disrupting the balance of those proteins, this affects the intrinsic pathway, right? The mitochondria mediated pathway. While there's other way that can affect the extrinsic pathway, and that is you can impair the receptor signaling pathway. So impairing receptor signaling pathway. So you can impair the extrinsic pathway by dysregulating the receptor activity, or under expressing the death ligands. So there are multiple ways by which you can impair the receptor signaling. Either you can reduce the expression of death receptors, or you can reduce the expression of death ligands, or there's one more mechanism that tumor cells follow, and they actually they show the expression of decoy receptors. So decoy receptors are the ones which those are the death receptors without the death domain. So now the death domain is absent. So the disc complex, DISC complex, which does the downstream signaling, it won't be formed. So there will not be any platform for the pro-enzyme recruitment, and that is why decoy receptor, even if the receptor is present, it does not have death domain. So there's no death domain in those receptors. So as there is no death domain, the downstream signaling won't be possible. So by those three different mechanisms, the receptor signaling pathway can be impaired, and thus this affects the extrinsic pathway. So the apoptosis won't happen. So this is how the tumor cell, they ensure that the apoptosis won't happen even if there is signal from the neighboring cells or from the immune cells. Okay, so even if they are receiving the extracellular apoptotic signal, this impairing the receptor activity, this ensures that the tumor cell will not die. Okay, then there's one more mechanism. Okay, or this could be due to some impairment or some mutation in the caspase gene. So if there's some mutation in caspase gene which reduces the caspase function, this can also ensure that the cell will not undergo apoptosis. So reducing, so even if the receptors are working fine, ligands are working fine, or the BCL2 family proteins, they are kept in check, but the caspase, which is the one which is going to do all of the proteolytic job, if it doesn't function properly, then apoptosis will not happen. So this is also a mechanism that is followed by tumor cells to evade apoptosis. Then there's one more thing that we learned in the like previous classes when we were learning about tumor suppressor genes, that there's a gene known as TP53 which expresses P53, which is a tumor suppressor. So this tumor suppressor, this influences the expression of Bax proteins, which are the pro-apoptotic factors. So the having a mutation in TP53 can lead to the cancer by inhibiting the apoptosis. So if there is a mutation in TP53, which is a gene coding for the tumor suppressor P53. So if P53 is not there, there won't be the activation of Bax genes, right? And if there is no Bax, there is no pro-apoptotic factor, there will not be any way to like there will not be intrinsic pathway to ensure that apoptosis will happen. So this is other mechanism that tumor cells have to inhibit the apoptosis. But by the way, the TP53 is the tumor suppressor gene. So this is how the tumor cells, they are able to evade apoptosis. So these are the important mechanisms by which they can do so. Till then, till now we have covered three important hallmarks of cancer. In next class, we will learn about other hallmark, like how the tumor cells, they are able to evade our immune responses. Till then, see you. Bye bye.